Welcome to the Deep Dive podcast channel. We're diving into something, well, quite paradoxical today.
Hmm.
This idea that sometimes the deepest pain, a wound you absolutely didn't ask for, could somehow transform into a source of strength.
Hmm.
It feels almost wrong to say it sometimes.
It absolutely does feel counterintuitive, but it's a reality we've really been exploring in the source material for this deep dive. It's about how emotional pain, specifically trauma, doesn't have to be the end of the story. It doesn't have to define who you are.
Right, it doesn't define you, but it can actually refine you.
Exactly. Through a process, a scientifically studied process called post-traumatic growth.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then. We want to unpack what trauma actually does to your body, your mind, your sense of self.
And then, crucially, look at how understanding this and using certain intentional practices
Yeah.
can help transform that pain. Maybe not erase it, but transform it into personal power, into new meaning.
Yeah. Moving from just surviving towards actively becoming. And hey, while we're getting started, if you find this kind of exploration valuable, maybe hit that subscribe button or leave a comment. It really does help others find these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do we start? Understanding the impact seems crucial.
Definitely. Because the source material really makes it clear trauma isn't just some external event that happens to you, is it? It leaves an imprint inside.
That's the core of it. When you experience something traumatic, and that can be a single event or ongoing stress or neglect, your nervous system fundamentally shifts. It goes into survival mode, biologically.
And we see those classic responses emerge.
Right. The fight, flight, freeze,
Right.
and fawn responses.
Okay, so fight. Like becoming aggressive, maybe argumentative,
For constantly defending yourself, yeah.
and flight. Is it like anxiety, always needing to be busy, distracting yourself, perfectionism maybe?
That's a great description of flight, yes. Constant motion, trying to outrun the
Might
feeling.
seem just feeling numb, checked
Mhm.
out, kind of foggy or disconnected.
Precisely, like you're not fully there.
And fawn, that one seems complex.
Right.
People-pleasing,
Mhm.
putting everyone else's needs first to keep the peace.
That's fawn. Abandoning your own needs to appease a perceived threat. And it's so important to get this. These aren't like conscious choices in the heat of the moment. They are deep, biological, hardwired survival strategies.
Your body just takes over.
It does, and the science behind it is pretty clear now. Your amygdala, the brain's sort of smoke detector or fear center, goes into hyperdrive.
Oh.
Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, that's the part for thinking, planning, rational thought, can essentially go offline. It gets overridden.
Right. Hard to think clearly when you feel threatened.
Exactly, and the vagus nerve, which is so vital for helping us feel safe and connected, can become dysregulated. This makes it incredibly hard to actually feel safe in your body even when the danger has passed.
And the source mentioned something I find really striking. The body remembers, even if your mind tries to push it away.
Oh, absolutely. The body keeps the score, as they say. That lingering state of high alert in the nervous system is why symptoms persist long after the event.
Like being jumpy, hypervigilant.
Yes, or emotional numbness, difficulty sleeping, finding it hard to trust people, or even trusting yourself.
And the key takeaway here, emphasized in the sources, is that this isn't weakness. It's not a character flaw.
Not at all. It is quite literally the biology of survival. Your system is still acting as if danger is right around the corner.
Wow. Okay, so that's the biological piece. But trauma also hits deeper, doesn't it? It affects who you believe you are.
Profoundly. It shapes your identity. Think about it. If your boundaries were consistently crossed, or your voice was silenced, or your feelings dismissed during traumatic times, your mind, especially young mind, tries to make sense of it. It develops beliefs, often subconsciously, as a way to cope.
Like what kind of beliefs?
Things like, I'm not good enough, or there must be something wrong with me, or even, I deserved what happened, or maybe I can't trust anyone. It's safer to rely only on myself.
And the source material is clear. These aren't objective truths. They felt true. Maybe they had to feel true to survive.
Precisely. They were protective beliefs. They served a function in an unsafe environment. But the tragedy is, they often stick around long after they're needed.
And they kind of trap you.
They can become these psychological prisons,
Yeah.
yeah, locking you into patterns of fear or shame or feeling fundamentally flawed, preventing you from moving forward.
And these beliefs can then solidify into something even deeper, right? Like core schemas.
Yeah.
As unconscious frameworks.
Exactly. Trauma can fundamentally warp those deep lenses through which you view everything. You might internalize core beliefs like, the world is just an unsafe place, or love always ends in pain, or showing vulnerability is dangerous, or, success and happiness aren't for people like me.
Oof. Just hearing those listed out feels heavy. So limiting.
They absolutely are. They restrict not just your healing, but your capacity for joy, for real connection, for stepping into your own power. And this is crucial, according to the source material. The first vital step is awareness.
Just noticing them.
Just starting to recognize these beliefs as responses to trauma, not as accurate reflections of reality or your inherent worth. That awareness is the first crack of light.
Okay, so that's the impact, the weight of it. But you mentioned possibility earlier. This is where post-traumatic growth comes in.
Yes, PTG. It's a term coined by psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun. And it describes the phenomenon where people actually experience positive psychological changes as a result of struggling with major life crises or traumatic events.
Okay, but we need to be careful here, right?
Right.
This doesn't mean the trauma was good.
Absolutely not. And the source material is very clear on this. PTG does not imply the trauma was desirable or necessary for growth. It means growth happened despite the immense difficulty and pain. It's born from the struggle, not a justification for it.
So what does this growth actually look like?
Well, common signs include things like a greater appreciation for life, maybe deeper, more meaningful relationships, an increased sense of personal strength or resilience, identifying new possibilities or a new life purpose, and sometimes spiritual development or a shifting perspective.
And this brings up a really important distinction, something the source addresses, directly differentiating PTG from, well, toxic positivity.
Yes, that's a critical nuance. PTG isn't about slapping a smiley face on pain or saying, just look on the bright side. It's rooted in authentic experience.
Yeah.
It fully honors the pain, the grief, the struggle. It doesn't bypass anything. It's growth that happens alongside the wound, often integrated with it.
Okay, that feels much more real. Which leads to another question people often have, which the source also touches on. Do you have to be fully healed or over it to experience this growth?
Not at all. That's a common misconception. Growth and struggle can absolutely coexist. You can be actively wrestling with the aftermath of trauma and still be growing in certain areas. You don't have to reach some imaginary finish line of healed before growth can begin or be acknowledged.
So they can happen at the same time, the struggle and the growth.
Often they do. It's messy. It's not linear.
Okay, so how does this actually happen? What are the sort of mechanisms behind healing and growth after trauma?
A big part of it involves tapping into our innate capacity for resilience.
Resilience. We hear that word so much. What does it really mean here?
It's often thought of as bouncing back, but maybe a better way to think about it, especially after trauma, is bouncing forward. It's adapting in the face of adversity. And the amazing thing is, this isn't just a psychological concept. It's rooted in neurobiology.
You mean the brain itself?
Yes, specifically in neuroplasticity. The brain's incredible ability to change, reorganize, and form new neural connections throughout our lives.
So even after trauma, the brain isn't permanently damaged or stuck. It can actually rewire.
That's the hopeful message from neuroscience, yes. It takes intentional effort, often support, but the brain can change. New pathways can be formed.
What helps that rewiring?
Several things highlighted in the sources. Safe, consistent relationships are huge. They help rewire the brain for connection and regulate the nervous system. Mindfulness practices help you learn to stay present, calming that hyper-aroused state. And self-compassion is critical for building new internal narratives, challenging those old trauma-based beliefs.
And the source emphasizes something important about resilience here, right?
Yeah.
It's not just something you have or don't have.
Exactly. It's not a fixed trait. It's a practice. It's a process. If you're showing up, if you're trying to understand yourself, if you're reaching out for support, even if it feels incredibly hard, that is practicing resilience. It's not about never struggling. It's about how you engage with the struggle.
Okay, resilience as a practice. What else contributes to this growth? The source mentions meaning-making.
Yes, meaning-making is vital. Trauma often shatters your worldview, your sense of order, your beliefs about life. It can leave you feeling like nothing makes sense anymore.
Why me? Feeling.
Right. Meaning-making is the active process of trying to reconstruct a sense of coherence. It involves grappling with those really tough questions. What did I lose here? What, if anything, did I learn about myself or the world? How do I want to live now knowing this happened?
So it's not about finding a neat, tidy reason for the trauma.
Not usually, no. It's more about integrating the experience into the larger narrative of your life, finding a way to make sense of it within your own story, transforming it from just random, senseless suffering into something that, while painful, contributed to who you are now.
Which sounds related to another concept you mentioned, integration, moving from fragmentation to integration.
Exactly. Trauma often fragments us. It can create splits, the before self and the after self, or exiled parts holding the pain and protector parts trying to keep us safe.
Like the inner critic, maybe?
Or the people pleaser, or the part that avoids intimacy. Healing involves integration, bringing these disparate parts back into relationship with each other, into a more cohesive whole.
How do you do that?
It involves acknowledging all parts, welcoming the wounded inner child, understanding the protective role of the inner critic, and maybe helping it soften its approach. It's about self-compassion for all aspects of your experience. Integration is the opposite of bypassing or pushing parts away. It's fully meeting yourself.
So if I'm hearing this right, a lot of healing boils down to reconnection.
Fundamentally, yes. Trauma is often an experience of profound disconnection. Disconnection from your body, maybe you feel numb, or maybe you're overwhelmed by physical sensations. Disconnection from your emotions, they might feel terrifying or just gone. Disconnection from your own needs, your values. Disconnection from safe others.
So healing is rebuilding those connections.
It is. Reconnecting to your body through somatic awareness, learning to feel grounded again. Reconnecting to your emotions through emotional literacy, learning to name and understand them. Reconnecting to your needs through boundary work, reconnecting to your values through reflection. At its heart, as the source material suggests, post-traumatic growth is about reconnecting with your true self, the core of you that exists beneath the layers of trauma adaptations.
And you can really see this transformation reflected in some of the stories or examples shared in the source material. Like Elena, whose experiences didn't harden her, but somehow deepened her capacity for empathy. She became this incredible listener.
Able to hold space for others, yeah. Or Jasper, who went through immense loss, but through his healing journey, particularly therapy and learning boundaries, found a deeper trust in himself, not despite the loss, but almost because he navigated it.
And Nadine, rebuilding her life after a difficult childhood, finding a way to be both softer and stronger, defining her own future. They are just survival stories.
They're stories of becoming. And thankfully, the source material doesn't just talk theory. It offers concrete practices that support this becoming.
Right, practical tools, like reflective journaling.
Yes, the simple act of writing your truth. Maybe using prompts like, what did this experience teach me about my own resilience? Or what strengths did I have to develop? Or even just, what do I need right now to feel safe?
It helps get it out of your head.
It externalizes it, allows you to see it, to work with it. Another really important one is somatic grounding.
Bringing yourself back to your body.
Exactly, especially when you feel overwhelmed or dissociated. Simple things. Feel your feet on the floor, notice the texture of your clothes, take a slow, deep breath, and just focus on the sensation. It helps regulate the nervous system and anchor you in the present.
Because if the body feels unsafe, the mind can't really heal.
That's right. Grounding says, right here, right now, I am okay. And importantly, healing rarely happens in isolation. Safe community is crucial.
Finding people who get it.
Finding people who can offer non-judgmental support. That might be a trauma-informed therapist, absolutely, but it could also be a support group or even just trusted friends who know how to listen without trying to fix you. The source notes that while therapy is often key, growth also happens through these other connections, through creative expression, through self-reflection.
That makes sense. The source also really highlights setting boundaries as a practice and why that's often so incredibly hard for survivors.
It is, because trauma often teaches you the opposite, that your needs don't matter, or that asserting them is dangerous. You might have learned that saying yes was the only way to maintain safety or connection.
So setting boundaries now feels like a betrayal of that old strategy.
It can feel terrifying, but the source frames it as a radical reclaiming of self. Every time you set a healthy boundary, you're essentially saying, I matter, my needs are valid, my safety is important, my energy is valuable.
Wow. Radical reclaiming. I like that.
It's powerful. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're about creating safety so authentic connection can happen. They protect your peace and your healing process. The source explicitly calls boundary setting a form of reclaiming personal power.
Reclaiming power one boundary at a time.
You got it. Another practice mentioned is creating rituals of meaning.
Rituals? Like what?
It would be anything symbolic that resonates with you. Lighting a candle each week to honor your journey, planting something and tending to it, writing a letter to your past self, or even to the trauma itself, maybe one you don't send. These rituals give tangible shape to the often invisible internal work of healing.
That's beautiful. And you mentioned relationships earlier, circling back to connection. The source emphasizes this because trauma so often happens in relationship, right?
Sadly, yes. Violation, neglect, betrayal, these often occur within relationships.
Mhm.
But the flip side is that healing also often happens best in relationship. Safe, attuned, consistent relationships.
How did that work?
Through something called co-regulation. When you connect with someone whose nervous system is calm and regulated, your own nervous system can actually mirror that. It learns, oh, this is what safety feels like. It helps your body unlearn the constant state of alert. It teaches you, on a biological level, that connection can be safe again.
That reminds me of the Dr. Gabor Mate quote the source included. It really stuck with me.
Which one was that?
Trauma is not what happens to you. It's what happens inside you as a result of what happened to you.
Yeah.
And healing is the reconnection.
Ah, yes, that captures it perfectly. The internal impact and the path back through reconnection with yourself and with safe others. And a crucial part of that path involves letting go.
Letting go. That sounds hard. Letting go of what? The anger? The pain?
Not necessarily letting go of the feelings, but perhaps letting go of the need to somehow fix or rewrite the past. You can't change what happened.
Right. That chapter's done.
But you absolutely can change your relationship to it now. Letting go, in this context, means accepting the reality of the pain without letting it define your entire present and future. It means allowing grief without getting completely submerged by it. It means choosing to build a meaningful life now, even with the scars.
There's a line from the source that really reframes this.
The one about not being a problem.
Yes. You are not a problem to fix. You are a person to hold, honor, and grow into.
That's such a compassionate and empowering perspective shift, isn't it? It moves you away from seeing yourself as broken towards seeing yourself as someone on a journey, someone becoming.
Becoming. And the source also mentions that the signs of this becoming, this growth, aren't always loud or obvious. People might wonder, am I actually making progress? FAQ 4.
That's right. Growth is often quiet. It shows up in subtle shifts. Maybe increased self-awareness, just noticing your patterns. Maybe setting a small boundary you couldn't before. Maybe having a moment of genuine self-compassion instead of harsh self-criticism. Don't discount the small steps. They accumulate.
And what about anger? FAQ 5. Is it okay to still feel really angry about what happened? Does that mean you're not growing?
Absolutely not. Anger is often a very healthy, very necessary response to injustice or violation. It can be the energy of, no, this was not okay. It can fuel the desire for change and the setting of boundaries. The key isn't to suppress it, but to acknowledge it, understand its message, and find constructive ways to channel that energy, rather than letting it consume you or turning it inward. Feeling angry doesn't negate growth. It's often part of the process.
So pulling this all together from our deep dive, trauma undeniably changes you. It leaves a mark. But it doesn't have to be the final word.
It doesn't have to dictate the rest of your life story. The pain wasn't your choice, but how you respond, what you build from the rubble, how you choose to reconnect and grow, that can be your power.
Post-traumatic growth isn't about pretending the storm didn't happen. It's about acknowledging the wreckage, honoring the struggle, and realizing you might just build something even stronger, maybe more deeply rooted, because you weathered it.
Exactly. And as the source material so powerfully concludes, you are not broken. You are becoming.
You are becoming. I love that. So maybe the final thought to leave everyone with today is this. If resilience isn't just a feeling, but truly a practice, something you do, what's one small, intentional practice you could bring into your life, maybe even today, to honor your own unique, ongoing process of becoming? Something to maybe sit with. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thank you for listening.